For over a century, two great nations clashed in an epic war. Armored knights, ambitious kings, and the courage of a young woman who defied armies. The 100 Years' War was more than just a fight for crowns. It was a conflict that redefined the course of European history and shaped empires. What was really at stake? What secrets lie hidden in the shadows of this seemingly endless battle? Get ready to find out. I'm Yosimar, and this is Spectrum of History. In 1337, the fates of two powerful kingdoms became entwined in a dispute that would transcend generations. On one side, England, a rising nation determined to expand its influence. On the other, France, the most powerful European force of the time, facing internal struggles. What started as a simple dynastic dispute over the French throne would soon become the longest recorded war in history. Edward III, King of England and a descendant of the French royal family, refused to accept Philip VI's ascension to the French throne. In Edward's mind, France belonged to him by right. This claim ignited the spark that would set Europe ablaze. To Edward III, France was not just another kingdom, but an extension of his own legacy. However, what began as a personal feud quickly escalated into a conflict filled with alliances, intrigue, and betrayal. This would not be a short war, nor an easy one. It was the prelude to a century of blood, sweat, and glory. At the start of the war, the English armies, though outnumbered, had a decisive advantage that would change the course of battles: the longbow. This revolutionary weapon, skillfully wielded by English soldiers, could fire arrows over impressive distances with lethal force. At the Battle of Crécy, this innovation proved its worth. In a humiliating defeat for the French nobility, heavily armored knights fell one by one, unable to advance under the storm of arrows that darkened the sky. The victory at Crécy wasn't just a military triumph, it was a psychological blow. The French nobility, used to fighting in close combat, found themselves powerless against this new weapon. Edward III solidified his control over much of France, and the shaken French were forced to regroup. For England, it seemed the French throne was within their grasp. At the height of England's conquests, another more devastating enemy struck Europe. The Black Death swept across the continent, wiping out entire populations. Soldiers and civilians alike fell victim to the plague, and the battlefield was temporarily replaced by ghostly abandoned cities. This plague spared no one. Both English and French armies were ravaged, forcing a pause in hostilities. But even in the face of this catastrophe, the rivalry between the two kingdoms remained alive. The desire for victory lingered, waiting to reignite. The Black Death not only changed Europe's demographics but also reshaped the nature of war. With fewer men to fight, both sides had to rethink their strategies. Yet, the war would not be silenced for long. In 1415, the war flared up again under the leadership of England's Henry V. Determined to finish what his predecessors had started, he set out for France with a clear goal: to take the throne. At the Battle of Agincourt, one of the most iconic clashes of the war, Henry found himself vastly outnumbered. The French army was immense, and the English, weakened by disease and hunger, faced nearly impossible odds. Agincourt was a resounding victory for England. Henry V proved to be not just a brilliant military strategist, but also a charismatic leader who inspired his men. France, devastated, saw its forces and morale crumble. Henry seemed on the verge of claiming the French crown. Just when all seemed lost for France, an unlikely figure emerged from the shadows. Joan of Arc, a young peasant girl with unwavering faith, believed that God had chosen her to save the kingdom. Guided by visions and an unshakable determination, Joan quickly became the symbol of French resistance. Under her leadership, the once defeated French army began to reclaim territory, starting with the city of Orléans, a crucial victory. Joan was not just a military leader, she was a beacon of hope for France. In a time when the war seemed endless, she united the country under the banner of faith. But her tragic fate loomed. Captured by the English and their allies, Joan was convicted of heresy and burned at the stake. Yet her death did not weaken France. On the contrary, her legend lived on, inspiring the French to keep fighting. Joan of Arc's death wasn't the end, it was a new beginning for France. Under the leadership of Charles VII, the French army began to reorganize and adapt its tactics. With the support of powerful nobles and a strengthened military, France started to reclaim its territories. Gradually, the English were pushed out of France. By 1453, after over a century of struggle, the 100 Years' War finally came to an end. France emerged victorious, and England was forced to abandon its dreams of continental domination. Only the city of Calais remained under English control, though even that would be temporary. The 100 Years' War wasn't just a military confrontation. It was an event that forever changed the political landscape of Europe. France emerged more unified and centralized under a strong monarch. England, on the other hand, would face internal struggles, including the Wars of the Roses, a dynastic conflict that would plunge the country into a new era of turmoil. The European feudal world was transforming. The war marked the beginning of the decline of the feudal system and the rise of permanent armies and more centralized nations. Beyond the political repercussions, the 100 Years' War shaped the spirit of the people who lived through it. The French resistance, inspired by figures like Joan of Arc, fostered a strong sense of national identity, something that would be crucial in the centuries to come. For England, though the war was lost, it brought military and organizational advances that would shape its future strategies. The echoes of this conflict would resonate across Europe, influencing the wars and treaties that followed in future generations. In the end, the 100 Years' War wasn't just a simple dispute over the throne. It was a battle for the very identity of European nations, a war that altered the course of history for two great kingdoms, and, by extension, the entire continent. And so, this epic chapter of history comes to a close. A story of conquests, tragedies, and transformations that shaped the future of Europe. But the lessons of the 100 Years' War still echo today, reminding us of the cost of ambition, the relentless resilience of people, and the inevitable changes that time brings. If you enjoyed this deep dive into history, leave a comment, share this video, and subscribe to the channel for more journeys through time. See you next time, where we'll explore other moments that changed the course of humanity.